So the second portion of the first third of the piece starts at bar 14. And at bar 14, notice that we're mezzo piano. So I like there to be a very definite change in dynamic and character from bar 13 to 14. In bar 13, we end with accented low notes that are open in a forte volume. So I like to take advantage of this fermata to really let those notes ring out, let the room settle so that you can have a completely different character when you get to 14. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that for you. So as you can see, I let those notes ring out. I take a good 10 seconds or so, 5 to 10 seconds, to just let things settle, and then I can restart the next phrase with a completely different character. So take advantage of that fermata. A general rule of thumb is, as a performer, when you're on stage, seconds feel like hours, but as a listener, the time really isn't that long. So take advantage of that time. If you need to empty your spit valve, that's also a good time. Notice that we have lots of staccatos in bar 15. Make sure to use that accent and staccato 2/8 note grouping on the end of beat 1 to beat 2, and then on the end of beat 2 to beat 3. Even though it's not marked in the music, I like to make those similar to the motif from the beginning of this section. The next thing to talk about is the triplet in bar 15. The A's are tripleted to the beat 4. I like to use a hard da-da-ga articulation because I find that with most of my students and with myself, if I do too hard of a tuckata, it tends to cut out the tone. So it would be good to experiment with the different syllables from tutaka to a hard da-da-ga to a soft da-da-ga to find something that has clarity, separation, but lots of tone in the phrase. So I'll demonstrate. Here's on the extreme end of tutaka. Okay, not a lot of tone in the phrase. Now I'm going to go ahead and use a hard da-da-ga. Okay, so still clarity, but a lot more tone. So I like a hard da-da-ga there. So experiment with those different syllable sounds and see what works best for you. Notice that I'm using da-da-ga, da-da-ga, da for the triplet articulation. That's because I started by using the Arbenz method when I was learning to triple tongue, and in Arbenz, it's da-da-ga. There's many people around the world that use tuckada, tuckada, tuckada. This is fine as well. There's also alternating syllables sometimes, tuckada, 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 tuckada. So again, you just have to find out what works best for you. Let's see, the next section of music that I'd like to talk about is bars 16 through 17. There is a drastic leap from your low G to your high G. And the tendency for this note is to really try to nail that high note. So we have ta-dee, and then trying to really nail that top note will end up manifesting lots of tension in the upper body and the neck. So as a result, I like to think of a springboard, and this is a tried and true analogy for brass players. And that is to put lots of weight on the lower note and then float up to the top note. So ta-dee, so that your air is primed and ready to make you travel to that high G. Let me try to demonstrate the difference between those two approaches. So here's me trying to just squeeze out that top note. Okay, so it's a lot easier to split that way. Here's me trying to float to it. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot less effort, ta-dee, when you put a lot of energy on that low note. And the last thing I'd like to talk to you about for this section of music is just before the fermata in the lyrically section, we have a fortissimo dynamic. Make sure that you're not playing so loudly that the tone spreads or distorts. Okay, Don't think of this as very loud. Think of this as your fullest, most ringing sound. So instead of edgy and loud, you want to think of open and ringing. Okay, it's a subtle difference, but it's worth experimenting and trying to get the best sound of that portion of the music.